All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain?
And
2F is the appointments to boards and commissions.
yeah, we have a young man who wants to get involved with being a fire marshal. So actually, not. It's Donnie Marr, who has long served the town and is coming back. Move to appoint Donald W. Marr of 29 Mayfield Terrace, East Lyme, as the deputy fire marshal for the town of East Lyme through January 6th, 2020.
Second.
Thank you. We have, Don has served as fire marshal. He, with the change of the guard up there, he's coming back on. We could use him. We actually have a need for someone who could put some man hours in up there as we've streamlined the actual department, cut down the budget, and lost some management up there. We could use his able service. So we appreciate Donnie for stepping back up. And that's the story. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? Thank you. Was there something else you added?
No, that was
No,
it.
that was
Just
it. We corrected something else, which is the old business, discussion and possible action of the Smith Harris House and functions with adult beverages, better known as alcoholic beverages. 3C, I asked our deputy to put this together because he was in my office one day and was looking for something to do.
And I don't know that that's quite the way it happened, but okay, we'll go with that.
So I said, well, why don't you we know what we're looking for here. We're looking for control, and we're looking for a test, and we're looking for this to not go sideways. I don't know if that's the way I want to say it, Kim, so be careful of that. But we see a need that we have several town precious properties with that are in need. They're all nonprofit, and they have a need for fundraising. And we see an opportunity, like other towns do, to perhaps have a wedding in a barn, or a backyard something or other, or maybe a wine pairing dinner or something in one of the historic homes, or in the barn, or in a backyard. And we see an opportunity for fundraising for these precious nonprofit historical homes and other organizations. But the Smith Harris is special because they do have a function barn in the back, and already have weddings at the facility. So this is nothing new. They have events, they have weddings, they have historical tours. They do a number of different things. They've done Civil War reenactments, encampments on the property for long weekends.
They hosted the bike rally.
They do the bike rally in
Trick
the
or
fall,
Trunk.
and Trick or Trunk. So they do a number of things. We're suggesting that maybe 3 times a year, that when it's appropriate, that they would be able to serve alcohol at an event with conditions. And the conditions, why don't you take it from there? You have drawn up some ideas.
Yeah. What Mr. Nickerson asked me to look into this. So what I did is I did some research. There are a number of towns that allow alcohol to be served on town property, for special events and occasions involving nonprofits, like the Smith Harris House would be. Where you do find language that says no alcohol, that's usually related to a Board of Education facility. Those are pretty much universal. They don't want alcohol being served there, too. So I looked at that. Some towns had some language, too, as to what would be done. And I also looked at our town charter, which says, the Board of Selectmen can issue a special permit to authorize that. So I made sure everything that's incorporated into the motion coming up is in accordance with the town charter as well. Also, I went on to the Department of Consumer Protection, which is sort of the overseer, because Liquor Commission is part of Consumer Protection. There's no such thing really as a certified bartender. I know my son Chris took a course when he was in college so he could make some extra money, but it's a course. You don't have to take it. But Consumer Protection does provide a responsible serving course. It's not very expensive. You take it, and you take it either in a bar or for a private function. It specifies what you have to do if you're the person serving alcohol or the bartender at one of these events. you can't serve, a person can't come up and say, I'll have a double. That doesn't exist anymore. Nope, you can't do that. And you have to make sure that the person coming up is 21 years old, where if you're allowing maybe a family member to serve as a bartender, you know, so Uncle so-and-so, you know I'm 21, right? You know, type of thing. We want to avoid that. So this would take that into consideration. They'll ask for IDs and so forth like that. And that's a requirement we can put on this, is they don't have to pay for this person to bring the alcohol, but that the person serving it is, been through this course. And, you know, any type of financial is between them, the two of them. So, then we talked about, we want to limit it the first year a few times.
To 3 times.
3 times in a calendar year.
In the first year.
For the first year.
Do this weekly.
And because of Smith Harris House proximity to the middle school and Lily B. Haynes, we wanted to ensure that there are no students on campus at either the middle school or Lily B. Haynes when an event is going on there, for very good reasons. Also make sure that they have a certificate of liability insurance not less than $1 million, and that certificate needs to specify liquor liability. And also a signed indemnity and hold harmless agreement. So, and we want to limit it to 100 people or less. So, did a lot of looking into it, and if anyone, I'll move the following motion. And
Well, let me just clarify a few things. I don't want a table with 5 handles of alcohol or a keg tapped in a corner, and it's a free-for-all, or it's a self-service situation.
Yeah.
So we're requiring a bartender, and a bartender that has gone through the course or through a caterer or et cetera, because you don't want Uncle Louie saying, I'll be the bartender.
No.
Because that would, in a sense, be self-serving. $1 million liability policy would be required for any event, and they would hold the town harmless as well. We try to create that. There's 3 events that would be allowed. I don't know that they'd even get to 3 this year. If they do have a person who wants to rent a facility, or they want to put their own thing on, and that's the other thing. They can have a fundraiser in the barn. They would raise money for their property and for their curator. They would have to come to the first selectman's office. I would go through the list to make sure all the things have been checked off. I want to see the certificate of liability. I want to know who the bartender is. I want to know who the caterer is and what's going on in this property, how many people are coming. And then I'd sign off and issue the special permit for the event.
And as we said, we've incorporated that into the resolution that the alcohol must be served by a private bartender who has completed that course, so that you can't have, put, ice buckets around every table or whatever.
Thoughts?
Questions? So this would contemplate, this is more than just beer and wine. This would be a full liquor permit for hard liquor as well. Is that
I'll let
correct?
that open for our decision in our
Yeah.
discussion tonight.
I did do some
let's go.
research. There are some places that there are some towns that limited to fermented malt beverages, which would be beer and something like the Smirnoff Ice type stuff, and wine. Then there's others that have the full thing, allow full liquor.
So what does this contemplate, this motion? Does this contemplate, I mean,
This one would just say, this one right now says alcoholic beverages, but
I wanted to have that discussion tonight at the table. I don't know. I don't know if people feel strongly against a gin and tonic. Of course, when you have the hard liquor, you do open it up for shots, and that's when things get, but you can get just as intoxicated on beer or a jug of wine. So I'm not sure it solves the problem.
there's one aspect of an event as opposed to running a bar is, and the problem with running a bar is you've got the regular customer that comes in, and you don't want to alienate that customer, and that's where the real danger of over-serving comes into play. You've got the regular customer that you want to turn off by shutting them off in a bar. At a one-off event, you don't have that incentive by the bartender to overserve. So there is that control that's sort of built into these types of events. This person may never come back. They're not coming back. It's a wedding, and that's a one-time thing. So I think it's easier if you have a qualified bartender that's been through that course by the Department of Consumer Protection. I think it's easier for them to enforce those types of policies. So that adds another layer of safety to this type of permit.
One other thing too, Dan, is the town charter also does put some responsibility on the Smith-Harris House Commission as well, that they have to make sure someone is there present to ensure, that everybody's orderly and everybody's abiding by regulations and so forth. So that we do have a sort of a check and balance on this one as well.
A member of the commission has to be there.
But good point, Dan.
I like that.
The other thing is, you were asking these historical houses to raise money. We don't give them an awful lot of dough in our budget, and they do a lot with very little.
Right.
And there has to be some mechanism for them to do their own fundraising. This is, then, in that particular venue, it's a great site for this sort of thing. It's, I think, a safe site, it's contained, and I think it makes sense in a lot of ways to allow them that opportunity to, especially if we're only talking about 3 events, to pursue that and see how it goes.
Great. Mr. Daigle, you weren't here when we brought this up a couple of weeks ago.
Just a couple questions. I've heard the word, the terminology, private bartender and caterer. That means a caterer would have to have a bartender who had completed this course as well, not just a private bartender.
Normally, pretty much every caterer that goes out to these events ensure this because they've got, a little bit of liability
They
as
run
well.
into this anyway.
Just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
the requirement applies to caterers as well as private bartenders.
Yes, very much so.
Right.
There's youth sporting activities that take place on the field between the schools. I don't know what kind of an impact it would have to those type youth activities compared to the schools. I'm not saying you definitely want to eliminate that, but it's something to consider. There will be children present, at least on that upper field, during
There's
potentially the
always
same
kids
time.
down there.
This is where I think, there'll be something coming before the first selectman, and I think, that's where you make sure that the Smith-Harris House liaison who's going to be doing this can check very easily with Parks and Rec to see, are there any activities going on at the football field or on that little soccer field in between middle
Well,
school?
there always is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm glad you brought it up, because I heard that as part of the discussion. I'm like, well, does Little League count as school activities? Not really. Does youth football, which is there every weekend in the fall, does that count? If kids are, I don't know, so the soccer thing is there. So that's a tough part of the motion. Any organized youth sports is going to knock the calendar down to.
And as written
few
right
days.
now, it wouldn't.
Be allowed.
It would be allowed. It says during school. It doesn't
During
say.
school hours.
It just says only during a period when there are no students on students. So
Students.
student is different than attending
Sports.
a sport.
Right.
So
So
I would think you could have an event while youth sports going on.
Okay.
As
That's
it's written.
some coordination.
And I think that, I'm not totally against that,
Yeah.
but it's just to make sure we fully understand what
Yeah.
this would or would not allow.
We don't want it during a school day. I don't think
fully agree
anyone's
with
getting married on a Wednesday at 2:00 in the afternoon.
And I think this is
In the
where
winter.
it puts the onus on the commission too, okay, but if it's a Friday night and there's a concert or a play that is a student activity. So that's where it would necessitate some coordination between the Smith-Harris House Commission and the
Most
schools.
nighttime activities at the school, though, involve parents. Not all. Not every kid has to be accompanied to a parent if there's a play or if there's a function, but most do. At least there's more parents present. The other term I heard mentioned was a permit issued by the first selectman, where this just reads that it'll be approved by. So is there going to be a permit issued, or is it going to be a?
According to our charter, the Board of Selectmen can issue a special permit to serve alcohol.
The Board of Selectmen or the first selectman?
Board of Selectmen, so, but this motion does, what you have there for a draft motion is a little bit different than what I'm going to read, because I've incorporated the town charter into this one. That the Board of Selectmen authorizes the issuance will issue up to 3 special permits. And then, so,
We'll do blanket special permit rate with this motion, but I'll certify. How's that? Not permit,
Yeah.
but certify. I'll make sure that what we're asking for in this special
It's
permit
being complied
is
with.
indeed being complied with. So that they can't just go out and do it and say, we did it. I
Yeah.
want to know what it is. And I
Yeah.
want to,
Yeah,
for the sake of the board.
Because it has to be, if the first selectman doesn't sign off on,
So I
review.
will ensure the compliance of this.
And just a
approve a date.
curiosity question, with this many people, would parking all be on the Smith Harris property, or would it be on?
Parking spills a little bit
the
into
roadway
the
and
dirt
to the-
road at the school, the roadway, but also at the community center. That's if it was a Saturday afternoon situation, people would be directed to go to the community center.
And actually,
Parking.
Smith Harris does own some of the parking, and where they sell Christmas trees is technically Smith Harris House property, so they can
Yes, it
have
is.
parking there.
It's actually their property.
That's actually,
And that's where the encampment normally is, and I've seen cars parked.
yeah,
there
because that's
before,
their
on the
property,
grass
so
when
they,
it's on the road.
they could utilize that for parking as well.
Okay,
Right.
that's all I had, thank you.
And one other thing too is, Representative Cheeseman's still here. I mean, we've had events such as this at the gala for the Children's Museum and so forth like that, and those are very well organized, very well monitored and done, and I can't think of ever having any problems at any of these. And I know the Sportsman's Club hosts weddings and so forth like that, and I can't ever remember any any problems from that. And here again, we're talking about the people at the Smith Harris House. I can't think of a more dedicated people who are going to ensure that, everybody, everybody's well-being. So I'll
Agree.
move the following. The Board of Selectmen authorizes the issuance of up to 3 special permits to serve alcoholic beverages at the Smith Harris House located at 33 Society Road, Niantic, Connecticut, for a period of 1 year commencing May 1, 2018, with the following specifications. 1, no more than 3 events per calendar year. 2, only during a period of time when there are no students on campus at either the East Lyme Middle School or Lily B. Haynes Elementary School. 3, a certificate of liability insurance in the amount not less than $1 million for the event, and such certificate shall specify liquor liability. 4, a signed indemnity and hold harmless agreement. 5, all alcohol must be served by a private bartender or bartenders who has completed a Connecticut Responsible Serving course through the Department of Consumer Protection. 6, attendance is restricted to 100 people or less. All events will be subject to review by the First Selectman before a special permit is granted to ensure compliance with the aforementioned specifications. Such policy will be subject to annual review by the Board of Selectmen.
Seconded.
Any further questions or comments? This is going to be an annual review, so this is only for 2018. We'll see how it goes, if they even have an event.
It goes into 19, because
Oh, it's-
the period's starting May to May.
Is it May to May or is it calendar year?
Yeah, May, but it's a 3 events, so they'll have to really complete these by the end of this year, but that's fine. No.
No, they
But-
could do
but
3
let me
this year
do-
and 3 next year before May,
Yeah,
as it's currently written, and that's okay.
that's fine.
It's okay. They won't.
All right.
It's not a wedding factory
No.
by any means, or an event center, really. Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? I wish them great luck and that they could put their energy into this. That would give them opportunity for further enhancing their programming. And they do such good work, and I hope this catches on. Any communication? I don't think so. Information reports, so that would be ex officio. Reports, Mr. Daigle? I know you were busy.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. Harbor Management Shellfish Commission, a couple things. There's been a new application submitted for aquaculture on the river to Wellsco. It won't be acted on for a little while. Wellsco's in the process of relooking at their bylaws and their plans in the river. But the commission did ask the applicant to install some buoys. The application is for Area 2, which is along 156. Between the kayak dock and the marina. At some time in the next few weeks, the applicant got approval from DEP to put up 4 buoys to show where his gear will be put in if approved. And once I understand when they're going up, I'll let the board know so that you can visually take a look at it if you're interested. Harbor Management Plan, they're still waiting to schedule a meeting with the consultant to review the comments from the commission, to decide how they're going to incorporate those comments and whether they're considered administrative, and it would or would not have to go back to the state DEP for review before they present it to the Board of Selectmen for review. And the ordinance is part of that plan, and that'll come here and will need to be looked at by town attorney and require a town meeting to approve the ordinance if authorized by the board. Inland wetlands, nothing too big there right now. There's a couple of cease and desist orders that have been put out that are being worked. And one application for some property up off of Cardinal Lane up in the north part of town, but nothing of significance at this time.
Okay. All set? Mr. Cunningham, would you just pull that microphone a little closer to you so we'll make sure we can pick you up?
Yes, yeah, I really don't have a report tonight, nothing new to report, so. Good thing we've got microphones
You can
there.
push that microphone back.
Yeah.
Mr. Siri?
Last week I went to a youth service meeting where we welcomed Julie Horner, a new member, and it was great to have someone new on the commission who newer ideas, new way of getting more information out to the public and so forth. So it was a very good meeting there. Then we had the Parks and Rec meeting where just Dave said all the fields are pretty much in the process of trying to get ready in between raindrops and freezing weather. And so forth. And we did observe a moment of silence for a long-time advocate for children in the community, both as a coach on the boardwalk, as a referee, Whitey, or Warren Whitehouse, who was always just known as Whitey. So been a tough year for that board, losing to Milan Kessler and Whitey, Warren Whitehouse. So that's it.
Well, indeed, the passing of Whitey touched a lot of people, as did Sal Carpenteri, another patriarch of our community. We're sad for the family and pass along our condolences to the Carpenteris. Sal is a great part of this town. I'm not responsible for the weather. As the first selectman of a beach town, I am in control of the weather from Memorial Day to Labor Day. So I promise you the weather will be better when we get to Memorial Day. But boy, it's been a very tough spring. It's a lot of people just scratching their heads, and God bless you all. You're getting through it. It's gray. The leaves aren't even close to even popping out. There's not even buds on the trees right now, although I saw forsythia bushes popping today. I'm like, but it's 48 degrees out. It doesn't make sense. Somehow we're going to pull off Earth Day on Saturday with a big celebration up at McCook's from 10 to 2. There'll be a lot of kids' activities. Then Steve Elsey, the kid band there, and he has a really cool thing for toddlers, little guys and gals, and that's going to be up at McCook's this Saturday. Sunday is the Boardwalk 5K, and the Boardwalk 5K this year is going to support the Miracle League field that we're raising money for handicapped children, kids in wheelchairs and embraces and all that, and we need to raise $500,000 for that. It's a big task, and we're already 25% of the way there. We just barely got started. So please consider running at the boardwalk, or walking, or strolling, or whatever you do. It's only 5K. It's 3.25 miles or so. And that's on Sunday, this coming Sunday. Jazz concert last night was outstanding. Stan Kenton,
Yep.
Legacy Orchestra. But what was great is the East Lyme Jazz Band came out at first and filled the stage with a few members. The drummer and a saxophonist joined them, and they banged it out for 3 great songs. And very, very proud of our music program at East Lyme. That jazz concert did a good job of putting a whole lot of people in the high school. Congratulations to the music department up there. And that money is going to go to support arts in our schools. There was also a jazz concert this past Saturday night at Old Lyme Country Club that supports the Theater Under the Stars program, or Under the Shell, which is the theater group that's going to be up at McCook's on the band Shell sometime this summer. They'll do another play. I think they're shooting for Neil Simon play. It'll be quite funny. And the Rotary Gala is coming up on May 5th, and that's always their annual thing where they raise a whole lot of money, and again, that will go to various projects throughout our community, including the Miracle League Fields, so I hope you support that. Rotarians go through a whole lot of work putting that big night together. Lots of donations from communities, from businesses in our community all over town, and we appreciate that. I've been very busy with COG meetings, that means Council of Government meetings, CCM meetings, it's the Connecticut Council of Municipalities. That's where all the mayors and first selectmen come together and learn about what's going on in our town. We learn a lot about the legislature and what they're doing and what they're not doing. And I sure hope that they can wrap their head around the direction we're heading as a state and how all the graphs are pointing this way, and we need them to start pointing this way again. So we're not talking about a recovery of 1 year, but of the next decade, to move the numbers back up and attract businesses back to our state and keep the talent in our state and bring businesses in, so we're not really just building houses for employees of EB and it used to be Pfizer, but they're not really hiring anymore. And so that's that. We've finished up the budget work at the Board of Finance level. It will move to a public hearing. That is coming up
April 30th.
April 30th. Is that a...
7 o'clock.
That's 7 o'clock. That's going to be at the new venue this year. We're going to be over at the middle school on April 30th. That's a Monday night, and that's going to be at the middle school because the auditorium is being used. I think the play is being staged the following weekend at the high school. So we do a public hearing, so we go over the budget, and then we go to a town meeting, which is just like that public hearing. It's the same thing, and that we voted on that tonight. That's on May 14th. And then 10 days later, on the 24th, we go to referendum. We'd like for the town to come out and vote for the referendum on the 24th, 8 to 8 at the community center. That's all I have. Public comment. Would anyone like to follow up? Mrs. Cheeseman.
Yes, you'll be sick of me.
Representative Cheeseman.
Thank you. Two things. First of all, I want to commend you for your decision to allow the Smith Harris House. I know weddings are very popular there, but when prospective clients are told only a champagne toast, a lot of people like to imbibe a little bit more at a wedding, and I think this is a long overdue. I'm sure they'll be responsible, and if it goes well, I would encourage you to look at it possibly for some of the other historic houses, particularly Samuel Smith House. That might be a great setting for a wine tasting or a beer fest or something like that. I know they too really need help in terms of fundraising, so let's see how it goes. But I think if everyone behaves according to plan, it might be something we could look at for some of the other properties. And the other thing I just want to mention, Monday night, one of our favorite restaurants, Flanders Fish Market, will be having a dine out for the Brian Daigle Foundation. And they do so much good work. I would urge you to go out. I understand there's some fabulous raffle prizes, and it's to support a great cause. And we're very lucky to have them here in our community, and I would encourage everyone to go and support them. Thank you.
There's also, before our next meeting here, there's also a fun, an honorary dinner for a couple gentlemen that have served our town long ago. You may want to put that into the record.
Yes, on May 1st,